You
Hi,
can.
everyone. Jaren, may I start? Yep. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this masterclass, Multisensory Learning in Action, Strategies to Engage Grade 1 to 4 Learners in English, Math, and EVS. A little about myself. I'm Annabelle with over 20 years of experience teaching primary grade learners, and I deeply enjoy nurturing these young minds in various subjects like English, Math, EVS, etc. My academic journey includes a BSc, a diploma in TTC, that is Teachers Training, and I'm presently pursuing my MEd at ITU, a testament to my belief that learning never stops. I'm hardworking, creative, and eager to learn new teaching strategies. I create educational videos for kids, and I run a YouTube channel for interactive learning. I was awarded by my school for ranking in the top 30 percentile in the International Teachers Olympiad 2022 conducted by Surasa. I'm an avid 10-kilometer marathon runner, and I enjoy painting in my free time. A little expectations here today. Let's co-create a joyful space, respecting all voices. Each of your voices count. And let's participate in polls and discussions. Drop questions in the chat and do keep the vibe positive. We are all here together to learn. Some objectives today. By the end of this masterclass, all of you will be able to define the concept of multisensory learning and list the modalities in education, to explain the importance of multisensory learning in improving student engagement in comprehension, memory retention among learners, to apply hands-on multisensory strategies in English, Math, EVS lessons for learners, to analyze classroom scenarios, to identify how different sensory modalities and how we can maximize their impact. And then to design a multisensory lesson plan to enhance retention of the learners. Okay, the masterclass takeaways for today are: multisensory learning unlocks engagement and retention. One size doesn't fit all. Multisensory strategies meets every learner where they are. And hands-on learning builds more than knowledge. It builds the 3 C's, that is curiosity, creativity, and confidence. Now let's start with a little icebreaker. Yeah. If you had to remember a phone number, what's the first thing you would do? Yes. Now here are the options, and we'll be having a poll here. So you can choose one of the options here. Yes, say it aloud a few times, write it down, visualize it, make a sound, make a song or a rhyme of it. So you can just type in and choose your option here. Yes, wow, wonderful, wonderful. Look at this. It's awesome. Yes, so you can see the poll saying so many of us enjoy repeating it and saying it aloud a few times, right? So you can see 42% of people really enjoy remembering things when they repeat it a few times. And then some people enjoy writing it down too. Yes, so these are the results that you can see. Okay, okay. So from this we conclude that all of us have different ways of remembering things, learning things, right? Let's think about your last lesson. What senses were your learners using? You can just mention some in the chat box. It'd be very nice. Yes. If you had your class recently, I'm sure you must have utilized some senses, right? That your children must have utilized, like either seeing or doing or saying or hearing, right? Yes, doing and seeing. So basically we are talking about using more than one senses. Yes. So Thank you so much for your participation. Okay, let's watch a video, a short clip on what is multisensory learning.
What is multisensory learning, and how can nature help? Whether you're a teacher, parent or carer, you may have come across the term multisensory learning. So what exactly is it? Multisensory learning simply encourages learners to use multiple senses when taking in new information. This learning style uses activities that appeal to the visual, watching and seeing, auditory, sounds, hearing and listening, kinesthetic, physical activity and body movement, and tactile, touch senses. It is a particularly popular teaching method for children who have learning differences like ADHD or dyslexia, or those with learning disabilities. But it can be beneficial to every child or adult. So how does it work? The basic science is simple. It's widely believed that the best way to teach new concepts is by involving multiple parts of the brain. Multisensory activities focus on utilising more areas of the brain by engaging more than one sense at a time. For example, to help children to learn to write, you may combine writing the alphabet with singing it. So why is it so important for a child's learning and development? Multisensory learning helps to make teaching more inclusive, giving children lots of ways to access new information. This is particularly helpful for kids who learn and think differently. Moreover, if children learn something using more than one sense, they will connect more deeply with what they are learning and the information is more likely to stick. So, in summary, multisensory learning makes it easier for children to collect information, make connections between new information and what they already know, and understand and work through problems. What is multisensory learning, and how can nature help?
So you see through this video how the different senses are activated when you are using multiple or different ways of teaching, right? So it helps bring about an inclusive teaching, and it helps the learners many ways of how to access information, connect it, and learn better. Fine. Now, what is multisensory learning? Now, multisensory instruction is a way of teaching that engages more than one sense at a time, like we saw in the video, using sight, touch, ear, movement, and all that in with they're all connected, right? And Mercer in 1993 said that a multisensory approach, also known as WACT or visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile, it implies that students learn best when information is presented in different modalities. Fine. So, what are the sensory modalities in education? Okay. Now we have the visuals. You see, where children we use charts and images in our classroom. You use drama and movements for kinesthetic. Then you use auditory, that is music and storytelling. Then we also use clay modeling, sand writing, that's for the tactile. And then you have your read and write learners, where we use where the children we use poems and essays to teach our children. So the effectiveness of multisensory learning is deeply rooted in the neuroscience. When students engage in more than one senses during the learning process, they activate multiple areas of the human brain simultaneously. So you see how important it is that when we are teaching, we use different senses that enhances your learning and teaching. Now, this brings us to the first objective, to define the concept of multisensory learning and the modalities in education. Okay, now let's come to the importance of multisensory learning in primary education. It improves memory retention and comprehension by engaging different areas of the brain, just like how we saw in the video. Like, for example, if you're You can use writing on sand, where the child speaks and says the word, he's looking at the word, and that brings about more retention, more comprehension, and because it engages different areas of the brain. Then it captures attention and maintains interest, where learners are likely to stay very engaged, motivated. Of course, when you are involving a child in different activities, it is but natural that the child will stay engaged and will help in enhancing the learning process. Okay, it builds strong cognitive connections, like when the child is playing what you call studying with blocks in math. Okay, he is using, and where he's hands on activity, and or he's singing the number song, so all that brings about a stronger cognitive connection that caters to a range of learning styles and needs, right? Including those with learning disabilities. But of course, multisensory learning is not only for learning disabilities, because different some child must be a little finding it difficult in reading, right? And that through when you use different modalities like visuals and listening and hands-on, then the child enjoys and picks up that concept. It encourages students to explore concepts and fosters create critical thinking and problem solving skills. Like, for example, if you're teaching a lesson on air, and you tell we have a project, say, come on, we're going to make a model using a vehicle using the balloon. Okay, now you can put the children in groups, and then you can ask them to watch a video. Okay, give them to watch a video. So they're watching, then they are discussing among themselves, planning, and then they're also making a model that's hands-on. So that brings about, they come up with a lot of hiccups during that, right? So then it kind of fosters critical thinking, problem solving skills. And then interactive learning activities involve collaborative communication. Yeah, it fosters teamwork. Now, this whole activity also brings about teamwork and interpersonal skills, right? Why does it matter in primary education? Now, children learn best through sensory rich experience. You know, kids, right? They love to touch things, they love to experiment things, they love to, they are full of life. And this is the best way to tap them. They are concrete learners, and that helps to bridge a gap between abstract and concrete. For example, if you're talking about the digestive system, you're teaching the digestive system. So it's child, what is the child doing? You are showing them a video, you're asking them to draw the diagram and label it, and then he can talk about it, where he is, you have a role play on it. Say, I am the mouth, and I do this and I do that. So that is what making the concepts concrete for better understanding. And they learn best through experiences and play, and enhances cognitive development through movement and exploration. Children love to move about. So that is the best way to teach children. Now, the research and statistics, to name a few. Research says that the Autumn-Gilliam approach in 1930 is the most effective intervention system for students struggling with reading and writing skills, especially the dyslexic children. Now, however, this was in 1930, but today it is highly recommended for students of any learning style. Then you have the Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence, 1983. Now, here also, students use their senses to learn and capture more emotions, and a wide range of studies was conducted. Then, in Fedler and Silverman in 1988, in a comparatively classroom study, now here children were taught using multisensory strategies, and it showed that 76% had better retention even after 1 week. So then the traditional methods that were used, like auditory or visual. So you see how much of research was done on this, right? And according to Shams and Shids in 2008, multisensory learning strengthens memory encoding by activating more neural pathways in the brain, just like we saw in the video, right? Where primary learners, they see, they hear, they touch and move simultaneously during the lesson, they are more likely to understand and retain the information. Okay. Now, I like this quote by Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. Now, based on this, they did a research and it was proven that 10% of what we hear is retained, 30% of what we hear and see is retained, 40% of what we hear, see, and say is retained. And look at it, 70% of what we hear, see, say, and do. So when you do all that together, the retention is much better. Okay. So let's talk about the impact of multisensory learning on learners. The first one, it enhances comprehension of complex concepts. For example, like you're using all the four modalities. For example, you're talking about, let's say, a lesson in uh, plants, okay, the plant life. Now here the children are listening to watching a video, okay, then they are growing a plant, they're drawing the plant, naming the plant, okay. So they're using all their visual aids where it makes it more concrete and relatable. They're listening to the instructions, listening to the video, then they are actually growing a plant, watching it grow in different stages, making a note of it at each stage, maintaining a diary or the notes. And then you have the materials which are used, which help the child in learning better. So the next one, it improves memory retention. Now, by repeating information through various sensory channels, it helps. For example, if you're taking a lesson on the butterfly, life cycle of a butterfly, same way, the butterfly, you teach them the different parts of the butterfly. You can make them draw the butterfly, name the parts, flutter like a butterfly, move about, and maybe a song. You can create a song teach them a song on butterfly. So repeated information kind of helps in better retention. Creating associations between sensory experiences also helps in better retention. For example, when you are touching and doing things, or you're writing, suppose you're writing a word on sand, okay, the child is saying it, he's writing it, and he's it's registering, so he's creating association, hand writing in the air. So all those different ways he's creating associations with that, and that also helps in retention. Applying concepts to real world scenarios. For example, when you're teaching a child about coins and currencies, you have a make do grocery shop in your classroom where children are, you have, they are buying and selling things. So you have the price tag. The children are reading those price tags. They're learning to communicate. They're learning about the coins, and that's the way they're building up. They're applying to the real world scenario. Now, the third one is increase engagement. Now, the main idea is to keep all the children engaged. So you can have various activities in your class. For example, you have these sticks with, as you see in the diagram, where you can have those sticks with you can write either a verb or a noun or a phrase, and then the child comes and picks it up, and he kind of frame the sentence on it, and then you can say, come on, let's have a silly sentence, and then you have a kind of a momentum going up where children are enjoying themselves. So that's active participation, and everybody is taking part in it. So, and then you have various types of activities in your class that brings about a kind of a real enjoyment in your classroom. Now, let's talk about the different types of learners and how they learn best. We start with the visual learners. They learn and they pay close attention to details, the body language, their imaginations are too great, and they are processing and taking a lot of information. And how do they learn best? Now, for example, they can learn better with charts, graphs, diagrams, videos. They love to watch videos. They love to watch out what you call images. And then you have color coded notes. They like to make all those notes. And also they have graphic map or concept maps, graphic organizers. So they learn best through this method. Then you have the oral or the auditory learners. Like the word says, it hearing and reading aloud, right? I'm sure you can relate to some of your kids as I am going through this, right? So children love to recall, they love to speak loudly, they hear their own voices, and that's how they learn too. Now they learn best when you have music in the classroom, listening to podcasts, audiobooks, class recordings, mnemonics. I'm sure you've done a lot of this mnemonics, right? Where you give them like how we have that for the different planets, right? My mother, my very educated mother just served us noodles. So you have those mnemonics where, or they could listen to creative songs. And so you can think of various ways of how you can get these learners to learn. And you also have where they have handwritten notes which they can convert into recordings for their benefit. Then you have the kinesthetic and tactile. Now, these enjoy practical based subjects, arts, sports, technology. They love all that. And so we can use that for their benefit. So, how do they learn best? Conducting experiments, projects. Then you have manipulatives, flashcards, your play-doh, your, different ways of uh, role plays. They love moving around the place. They cannot sit in one place, and for that they love their breaks, regular breaks, and love to stretch their legs a bit. And of course, you can also use virtual reality and augmented reality, just like how you can see here in the pics out here. So this is, of course, if you have a tech savvy classroom, then you're all for this, right? And then you have the reading and writing learners. They prefer to take in new information by reading and writing. Okay. And they love to summarize things. They love to read definitions. They're very particular about things and writing it down in the way that they would understand best. And this is how they would learn, through story writing. They are very creative with their notes, and they read textbooks, summarize it with notes at the side, beside the textbook. They love to write and make their own notes, and through gamification, presentation, and also they use the Cornell method. Like if you look at the Cornell method here, there's a pic right here. They highlight the important things. They use abbreviations. They use signs. So that's how they learn. Now, this is a sample of results in the primary grade. Now, a case study was done, the sound safari, and this was for grade 3, EVS. Okay, the objective here was to help students identify sounds in their environment and categorize them as natural or man-made. Right now, what were the modalities? The 4 modalities used here. Auditory. Now, first, the children were asked to listen to recordings of different sounds, okay, little clips of different sounds. Then they were taken on a walk around the school where they had to make notes of all the different sounds that they heard. And then they had a chart also with symbols and, sound symbols where they could make their notes. And when they came back later on, they had to create a mini scrapbook using different textures related to the sounds that they heard. For example, for bird feathers, they use cotton, and for foil, they use rustling of leaves. And they were, as creative as possible. Now, look at the results here. Now, the students were highly engaged. Yes, of course, they were taken all around and they were made to do a lot of things. Definitely, the engagement level was very high, and they could identify sounds accurately even after 1 week. 92% of that. You can imagine they even managed to uh, recollect the sounds after even in a follow-up quiz a little later. So compared to the 68% during the baseline assessment. Now, even it was even observed that even one shy child who rarely participated volunteered to present her findings. So you can imagine how effective is this multisensory learning. Now, this brings us to the second objective, to explain the importance of multisensory learning, improving students' engagement, comprehension, and memory retention among learners. Okay, now these are different strategies which we are going to use for, suppose for English, and we have to just an example, like we have to retell a story using puppets. Now we are using multisensory, right? So for puppets, so we'll use puppets, we'll use sound effect and drama. Now here the children can see the characters, the scenes, okay? Then the sound effect would be the music, and then also the dialogue spoken, okay, by the students. Then they act it out using the gestures, movements, and the hand puppets, the movements, and the using of the props, that is the textured materials that were used. So you see, all four modalities were used. And even when you blend all of them, it brings about a stronger connection. Another example would be like spell a word frog. Now here the child writes the word frog on sand, right? And then he says the word frog. He's looking at the word frog. So, and then later on he can even jump and hop like a frog, right? So these are the different ways of how you can blend your teaching and to make it more effective. And it enhances the memory of the learners. Now, a strategy for math. As you know, math is always a lot using manipulatives, you're using blocks, using number line, you name it, right? You can be as creative as possible. So you have the color-coded number charts. For tactile, you have where they touch the objects and move the objects. For kinesthetic, they're jumping. Like you have this flow map that you can see the pic out here. Okay, so you have various things like you have number line on your floor, and then you're counting. You can have rhymes when you're teaching, like for example of learning of tables where they are in a song fashion. So you have various ways of how you can tap on these senses. Now an example here is skipping and counting in hop as a using hopscotch with numbers like, come on, let's skip 2, skip or 5, like you have 2 4 6 8 or 5 10 15 20. So you have different ways of how you can make and enhance your lesson. A strategy for EVS. Now, when you're talking about you're using nature box. Now, EVS is all about most about nature experiments. So here you're talking about clay models, interactive simulations, experiments, projects. So here again, you suppose for an example, you have your water cycle. Now here again, they're watching a video. They're watching they're listening to the audios of the sound of the rain, the thunder. So there's different, you can have these different audios which enhances their learning. And then they can also make their own mini project, okay, where they can make the water cycle using various things, like you can see the examples out here. So they can be as creative as possible. So these are the different strategies for EVS. Now, this is an actual classroom in Germany, and it is where they use multisensory tools. Let's enjoy this video.
It may look like an interpretation of the Maori haka dance, but these teachers at a Hamburg school are being trained how to use multisensory learning techniques. Before they can awaken their pupil senses, they have to rouse their own.
We apply this to the teaching of different subjects, and we're trained here to use different types of multisensory learning. For example, touching something with your hands or doing something while moving. You see different things here, like writing in the sand or in shaving foam.
The benefits of writing words in sand or foam might not seem that obvious to an adult, but it can make a difference to children learning to write.
It's always nice to try it yourself because it makes you realize how it will be for the kids. Grown-ups are always a bit reluctant at the beginning, but this really helps.
The approach used at this elementary school is a combination of multisensory learning and movement. Pupils spell words while jumping or roll around the corridors to do maths exercises. Hopping from pad to pad while spelling words is not just for fun.
Movement fosters interconnections in the brain, and interconnection in the brain enhances the learning process and sharpens memory.
So skipping with a rope is not just a physical activity here, it can also help with learning how to multiply.
We use a skipping rope while multiplying 1 times 6, 2 times 6, or 1 times 9, 2 times 9, and so on. And this is a lot of fun.
We do this to train our brain through sports and movements so we can memorize better. We can memorize even better when using music.
Pupils are encouraged to translate their emotional response to music into paint on paper. The idea is to get them to make use of their different senses and also to strengthen independent thinking and build self-esteem. The school's approach has overcome an initial skepticism to attract the interest of education experts.
All the people that come here are delighted by the learning atmosphere at our school. They're also amazed at how independently our kids show that this way of learning is relevant and effective, and that the kids can get the best out of what a school can offer.
The school day ends with kids bringing all of their senses together and expressing themselves through their brass band.
So you saw in this video how they use a blend of visual, auditory, kinesthetic activity, and you could name the things that they have used and to make it more effective. So you see, it kind of retains, the children retain what they learn, and that when they connect it to real life actions. So you see how powerful multisensory learning is, where it brings about not only joy in the children, as well as it brings about, it involves the whole child, the mind, body of the child, and the retention is better. Now, this brings us to the third objective, to apply hands-on multisensory strategies to design engaging English, math, and EVS lessons that cater to multiple learning styles. Okay, now here let's have an activity out here. Okay, now this is a case study. You have to identify the modality as well as write what the senses are in the chat box. I will read it out for you. During a lesson on nouns, the teacher introduces the concept of using flashcards and pictures and words, right? And the students took turns picking up flashcards from a pile that had to act, and they had to act out or mime it. And the rest of them had to guess the nouns. And once they guessed it, they had to put it in the correct column. So what were the kind of, I think I've already shared that with you, but nevertheless, you can have a look at the different modalities used. And okay, so you have the visuals. They had used the teacher had used flashcards with pictures. They sorted out on the board what you call the cutouts. Then they had to listen to the guesses. That was auditory. And the teacher prompts. The tactile was where they were touching the flashcards and then they had to go and put it on the board. That was the movement. That was the kinesthetic. Now let's come to the other question. How would you enhance this activity to make it even more multisensory? Anyone would like to share? Yes. Think of an idea of how you can enhance this particular case study. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. So of course you'll use the different, yes, you can make a song. Okay, they can pick, you can use variety and use all the modalities. Yes, definitely. Let us think of a little more ideas. Okay, here are some of the ideas where we could enhance this activity. For example, after guessing the noun, they could say the word aloud and frame a sentence with it. Okay, then they could use facial expressions where where they are not only miming, but they're using a little more expressions like blowing the candle to say the word noun, that your cake, like a little more melodramatic. Okay, then you can have where the children work in pairs. So it helps in the collaboration, okay, collaborative learning. Also, where two of them act together. Okay, then you can also have for ELL learners who are learning English as a second language, where they give the name in their own language also. So maybe they can add out and so children will learn what you call it connects linguistically as well as culturally, as well as like how you're saying using texture. You can also use textures. So you can think of various ways of how you can enhance your activity. Okay, let's take another case study. Now here there is one more where you could draw and write, where they draw and write the sentence, and then afterwards they can, you know, have your journals I was talking about earlier. At the end of the day, they can write. So the child self learns also what does he like, what does not like. So that also helps the learner. Let's take another activity. Now, identify the modality and the senses here. A teacher displays an interactive photo board in her grade 2 EVS class. And here she's put colorful photos and of different animals, their environment, and she's inviting them to come and move them, you know, and put them in the correct habitat. So what do you think could be the modalities and the senses here? Anyone? Yes? Yes, okay. Uh, thank you. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes. 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 Okay. Thank you very much. Now let's see some more idea. What did they use? Let's see what they used. Okay. They used visuals. Yes. And they used images, color codes. Yes. And then you have tactile where they picked it up and they went and dropped it in the particular habitat. So let's go to the next one. How would you enhance this one, even to make it even more multisensory? Yes. Anyone? Yes. Okay. Textures. Fine. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes. Very nice. Yes. Yes. You can really excite them by using toys and color codings. And yes, very nice. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Wonderful. Awesome. And yes, the sounds of animals. Yes, that also is a good one. Right? Now, yes, you could have a project where they could make shelters also. Wonderful. Wonderful ideas. Okay, let's see something here. Now, here I was thinking out of the box. Like, for example, you could add sound buttons at the, near next to the cutouts where children press that sound, and then they could identify the animal. So you could also have that. Then you also have where they could textured habitat, where you can, for example, for a desert, you could have a what you call sandpaper, using sandpaper. Yeah. So and you can have where they touch and feel the textures, and they know what kind of habitat suits these animals, right? Then you also can ask them to mimic, like how you said, the sounds, yeah, and the movements, hop like a bunny or walk like an elephant. So you have different types of ways of how you could mimic that animal. And of course, then you can also use background music. Now that itself would help in making this lesson more immersive, right? And more enjoyable for the children. A background music would do very well. See, yes. So this brings us to the fourth objective, to analyze classroom scenarios, to identify how different sensory modalities are used and ways to improve them to maximize the impact, right? So now let's talk about a simple lesson plan of how we would use it. Okay, now our topic would be building a multisensory lesson on preposition for grade 1. Okay, now the first important step would be the goal or the learning outcome, or so you have the goal, would be the learning objective, sorry, where students will identify and use prepositions to describe the location. So now we know what we want to teach. We want them to identify. Now we've just taken a small part of the lesson just about identifying. Okay, now here you have to think about, now since we're talking about multisensory, we're going to select all the 4 senses. That's the visual. So we have to also think about what we're going to use. We're going to use images, we're going to use objects. For kinesthetic, we're going to use some movements. Tactile, we are going to use manipulators. And auditory, we are going to use song or stories. So you have to decide what you want to use, of course. Then you also have, the next step would be to choose a central activity. Now, since we want to think of we are thinking of multisensory, we are going to try and use all the 4 senses, right? So, and then we will also think about what are we going to use for the lesson. We have to choose. So you can think of your boxes, your different tools in your classroom where you could use this for the benefit of your lesson. And of course, we have to plan an assessment. Very important to have an assessment and a feedback. So, so you have your checklist, and where you observe the children during the activity, so that you know that the child has understood or no, right? And then let's go for the actual activity. Now, the activity here is Teddy in the box. Now, I have taken Teddy in the box, but of course, we cannot give big. I know if you have a big class, you cannot think of a Teddy in the box, right? But you can think of any article, like maybe a pencil in a box. You can think of various ways. So I have chosen Teddy in a box. Okay. And here, the teacher says she's given a teddy and a box to every student. Here. Now, the students are given a teddy bear. The teacher says in. She uses the word the preposition in, and the children place the teddy in the box, and then they have to describe it. Remember, the teddy is in the box. So now here we are using all the 4 modalities. The children are watching the demo. Okay, they are looking at their peers, how they are doing it, right? And then they're handling the teddy that's tactile. Then they're handling the box also. Then the auditory, they're listening to the instructions of the teacher. And kinesthetic is when they're moving the box and the teddy. Okay, so they're using all the 4 senses. So it's like hands-on learning. Now, for the extension, you can think about where the children could draw the teddy. Now, not necessarily a teddy. It could be any object of their choice. And they could write a sentence below, depending on the position of that particular object. Fine. Then you have for assessments. Now, you can do your assessments during the class itself, right? So you have during the class, you can use your checklist. So you tick out, you go around, you can tick out and you see whether the children are placing the objects in the proper way, in the proper place, and then whether they are giving the verbal expression, that they are giving the sentence in the correct form. So there itself, your assessment is halfway there. Then you have after the class. Now here you can, again, the children can draw and write in their book, okay, the particular position of their choice. Then you can also have digital exit tickets like Padlet or Seesaw, where they can either post a picture of a position, and then they have a voice recording of the sentence. Okay, so that is being a little way. And another creative way, I just thought of that, a photo booth. Like if you are really creative and really enterprising, the students can act with the object, and then you can click a snap and they can stick it in their scrapbook, and then they can write the sentence on the position of the object, right? So these are the different assessments. The next one is a reflective question. It's very important for teachers to reflect on and check and see whether the children have understood or no. Okay, now which prepositions did your learners struggle most? Then you need to ask yourself, were these materials and sensory strategies effective in enhancing the students' learning experience? Then you have which resources worked well, which did not work well, which one need more improvement. And then you can talk about, were they able to use the preposition accurately in sentences? Okay, so these are some of the ways of how you can reflect and see how your lesson went, right? Now, in order to make your learning enjoyable, okay, it is encourage students to have reflective journals, so they can jot down, they know what they like, what they learned in that day, so they can retrospect. Then you have to also create a positive learning environment. So children learn best when there's positive vibes in your classroom. Promote creativity and imagination. Now, children, they love how you have stories and fantasies. So when we talk about those things, the children are very excited. So you can tap on these and you can work your lessons based on creativity and imagination. Then you can have a variety of teaching methods, like you have sand, writing in the sand, clay, experiments. You can think of various methods of how you can make your or enhance your lesson. And of course, you must focus on the strengths and interest of the children. When you know your children, you know their strengths, you know their what they are interested in, automatically you will work towards that, right? And this brings us to the fifth objective, to design a multisensory lesson plan to enhance the retention of learners. Okay, to conclude, multisensory learning is not a strategy, it's a mindset. By engaging more senses, we touch more minds, reach out more to more hearts, right? And whether it's through movement, music, color, textures, anything, our learning can come alive. And every learner is unique. Everyone has their own style of learning. So multisensory teaching ensures that each child feels, sees, hears, and does, and they feel included. Let's not aim for perfect lessons. Let's aim for memorable ones. Now, with this masterclass, we are now able to define the concept of multisensory learning and learn the four modalities. We also learn the importance of multisensory learning and how it improves students' comprehension and memory retention. We also applied hands-on multisensory strategies, okay, for different lessons to all learners, and we analyzed classroom scenarios to identify how different modalities and the ways of how to maximize impact. And last, we designed a multisensory lesson plan, and that enhances the retention of the learners. Now, let me see how much you have paid attention. Okay. Now, these are a few. This is the few questions which I would love for you to answer. What is one key benefit of using multisensory strategies in the classroom? Is it A, it increases homework completion? B, they help only students with learning difficulties? They promote passive learning? Or D, they enhance engagement and memory retention? Yes, of course. Wonderful. It is D. Yes, it definitely engages memory and memory retention. D. Wonderful. Very good, students. Okay, the second one. Which of these activities is an example of multisensory approach to teach vocabulary? Reading a word list aloud, writing words repeatedly, using flashcards, acting out words and saying them aloud, or giving a word list for homework? Yes, definitely. It is C. You're using multiple senses. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your responses. The third question. Which statement reflects a misconception about multisensory learning? Is it A, it is only useful for students with special education needs, or it supports memory by engaging multiple senses, it promotes inclusive practices in classroom, and it can be used across all subjects? Yes, yes, it is A. This is a misconception that we think that is only for students with special needs. No, this is useful for all types of learners. Thank you so much for your responses. Okay, now a little FAQs. Multisensory learning benefits all types of learners, not just learning differences, like we said. Definitely, yes. Multisensory is useful for all types of learners. It engages everyone and it benefits everyone. Is incorporating movement and touch in a lesson only suitable for younger learners? No, definitely no. Because movement, it can be used for older children too, right? It is beneficial for all types of learners and all ages of learners. Then, can multisensory strategies work in large classrooms? Do you think so? Of course. Yes, in large classrooms also you can make a lot of adjustments. You can use music, you can use visuals, you can use movements. It does not matter. You can really think of innovative ways of how you can engage even a large classroom. And then, do I need expensive materials to implement multisensory learning? No, definitely not. Everyday items that you see around, you can be used for your lessons. So you need paper, colors, flashcards, you can name anything. Even your movements are like like a tool to teach your children. So you see how effective is multisensory learning. Okay, now these are the masterclass takeaways. Multisensory uh, learning unlocks engagement and retention. One size doesn't fit all. Multisensory strategies meet every learner where they are. And hands-on learning builds more on knowledge and the 3 C's: curiosity, creativity, and confidence. Now, this is the work that I cited when I was doing my PPT. Okay. And please do stay updated with ITU on Instagram. Please do follow. You'll gain a lot. And of course, thank you so much for being wonderful audience and participants. I enjoyed sharing the little that I know and learned. Yeah. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to put it in the chat box. I will try my best to answer them. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Shaila. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you so much, really. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fatima. Thank you so much. Yes, yes. I really enjoyed myself too. Yes, thank you so much. Yes. Yes. Any questions? Or we can end this seminar. Thank you so much.